Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing. It's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go, 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 go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This is the Dragon's Lair, in association with Riverside Sports Bar Newport, an American-style bar with a proper Welsh feel.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast, in association with Riverside Sports Bar, the home of live sport and great food in Newport. I'm Jamie, and joining me as always is Gavin Thomas. How are you doing, Gav?
Very well, Jamie. I've spent the entire weekend either refereeing or coaching kids rugby, and now I barely know what's happening, but other than that, I'm good.
Excellent, good stuff. And Gareth Leclerc is back with us. Hello, Gareth, how are we?
Hey, boys. Yep, good to be on. Happy to be on as well. For once, not following a Dragons loss. So watch some good rugby this weekend as well.
Well, that's it. If we don't play, we don't lose.
Job done, yeah. Happy
That's
days.
it. Exactly. So it's a big pod this week. It's Judgement Day preview, and we have a very special guest with us this week, a former Dragons fly-half who made his debut against the Ospreys back in April 2008. He became the first ever Dragons player to get a hat-trick in a competitive match against Ulster back in 2009. He had 3 stints at the Dragons, and he is the region's record point scorer. Yeah, you all know who I'm talking about. It's Jason Tovey. Jace, welcome to the Dragons Lair. How are we?
Not too bad. Nice little introduction there, making me blush a little bit, but you know, I'll take
You're
it.
a Dragons legend, mate. We gotta build you up. You are a Dragons legend. Enjoy it.
Doesn't
Right,
happen
so-
often now.
No, exactly. So the first question we always ask our guests is to tell us about your rugby journey. So basically, how did you get into the game of rugby, and where did it all begin for you?
So I think I was around about 6 or 7 playing at Risca. My dad started, obviously was coaching that as well, so naturally you just automatically just carry on playing through all the way. I went all the way through to 16s with them. And then obviously my dad stopped coaching then, and from there I went into like the academy systems. Went to Crosskeys Youth, but only eventually played about 7 games for him, just because of, as soon as I turned 17, I ended up going straight into like Newport. Spent a year at Newport before going into Bedwas, and then had a year at Bedwas, and then back to Newport. Then just that's all through the academy, so they would place us where we would play, you know. And to be fair, those 3 years were probably like up there with 3 of the best years I played as well, because it was still quite that type of old school rugby environment, you know. It wasn't it was taken seriously on the pitch, but like off the pitch you'd always have a good laugh with each other no matter what. And from that second year in Newport, I played about, it must have been about 6 or 7 games, and then ended up making making my debut against the Ospreys, I think. Yeah, the
It was, yeah.
Ospreys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that was at the end of the year. So I played 4 games at the end of the year for the Dragons while I was at Bedwas, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
And then obviously went back to Newport and then played 4 or 5 games for Newport and then consistently started playing for the Dragons then in 2008.
Yeah.
And obviously from there, I think it was about 8 years I spent before I moved. Took a year, let's say a sabbatical in Cardiff, and then managed to go back to the Dragons for 3 years. Moved up to Edinburgh for 2 years, but again, that was one of the best experiences I've had. If I could say to any youngster or someone debating moving clubs, I would highly recommend
Hmm.
changing country and just experiencing. I know it's obviously only Scotland, but just experiencing something different and trying to get out of that little fishbowl of Wales. Of how toxic it can be with like social medias and what it's like in Wales at the moment. So I would, if there's any person debating whether to leave, I would recommend it straight away. I think I spent another like 3 years at the Blues then to finish up. Obviously, in between that, Edinburgh and the Blues, I spent a couple of games at Crosskeys along with. I think I finished the season at the Dragons for about another 10 games, something like that. Then
Yeah.
it's been a fairly lengthy 15, 16 years.
It certainly has. So, who are your rugby heroes growing up then, Jace? Were there any players you looked up to and wanted to emulate?
I was a huge Johnny Wilkinson fan.
Yeah.
Just growing up, I literally just that year they won the World Cup. Is it the Jerusalem Building Jerusalem? I think the
Yeah,
program is called.
yeah.
The amount of times I used to watch that. I had his book in the house, and
Mm,
obviously him being a left footer as well helped.
yeah.
But he was one of the biggest people I looked up to, and just wanted to kind of be that type of player. Obviously, the tackling side of things I wasn't too keen on, but uh, anything else was a bonus.
I was going to say playing style is quite a different player to
Yeah,
Johnny
yeah.
Wilkinson.
You won't see me putting it in like
Oh, fair play. I've always loved your honesty, Tom.
that.
Fair play to you. So, you made your debut against the Ospreys, mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
2008. What do you remember about that day? Was you nervous at all?
So how it come about was, I knew I was starting,
Mm.
but the Dragons said they were going to name Kerry Sweeney to start. But I was actually starting, but they just didn't want the Ospreys to find out that they were bringing in like a 17-year-old kid
Oh, okay.
to start the game. Because I think the week before I was on the bench against Connacht, but I didn't get on.
Mm.
And from what I remember, I think first play of the game, I've had Tia running at me. Uh, Luckily, back then I wasn't too shy of tackling, so I just managed to like roll on the floor, and he just fell over the top of me. Um, but I think the one thing I remember from it, I think that one of my first touches of the ball, I think I went for a drop goal and hit the post, and I made a
Mm.
penalty from that, and I just kicked the penalty then. So I think those are my first 3 points for the Dragons as well.
Oh, fair play. I would not want to be facing Philo Tia in his
Yeah,
prime on a rugby field.
he was a big unit, but obviously, like like you're in awe a little bit there because the team they had playing against us. So, I think
Yeah.
Lee Byrne played, Hook played, Marty Holland, Jerry Collins, who were like all black legends at the time. You
Yeah.
were a little bit in a surreal moment.
Yeah. The Galacticos era, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair play. So you made 178 appearances for the Dragons and you scored over 1,000 points. Favorite memories in the Dragons jersey then, Jace? Any particular moments or matches that stand out to you?
Obviously the first hat trick against Ulster.
Mm.
Oh, that
I
was awesome.
I always remember the last try. It was a bit of a weird one. They tried to run it from their own 22, and I think I just managed to like rip the ball and just score into the post. I think that was the third try. So that one will always, because I think I was the first one to do it as well.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously that was a big moment, and then another one would be when we beat Cardiff at Rodney Parade when they were doing the Bisley standout.
Yeah.
I think we played in the white kit when Steph Jones nailed that kick from the halfway.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you know, that was such a great atmosphere because everyone was on that one side of the stand, and
Mm.
I still kind of wish they didn't get rid of that Arga stand because it was such like an old school feeling to it.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like crammed everyone in. Do you know? And but obviously, like the favorite one is getting the Dragons' first Judgment Day win. You know, and obviously having a vital part in that and just kicking the winning kick because you know someone like me playing at Millennium Stadium, I was never going to do it for Wales, so you know to do it with the amount of people that were there on Judgment Day was a good achievement for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I will talk about that in a bit. So you played under a few head coaches at the Dragons, Jason, who doing your 3 stints. Who
Just
was
a
the
few.
who was your favourite head coach? Who was the coaches you enjoyed working under?
It had to be Paul Turner.
Friend of the pod,
Uh,
Paul Turner, yeah.
yeah, he was obviously the first guy to give me my opportunity.
Mm,
Backed me for many years as well. Still talk to him now and then as well when I see him,
yeah.
and uh, but he was just a general all round nice guy as well. Tried to teach me with my right foot, but that didn't go down too well. Uh,
Uh,
but it
do you,
was
so I was going to ask Jason, do you think the Paul Turner saw some of like him in you, and that's why he kind of liked you as a player?
yeah, potentially
Uh,
just because do you know, I was the type of person I didn't like sticking like you know how people stick the structures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't that type of person.
Mm.
I'd just rather go off script and you know if things happen, things happen. If they don't, they don't. Just move. I was the type of person I didn't care if I got things wrong. Like
No,
I
that's only
just
what Finn Russell does. In fairness,
yeah, like obviously he's a bit more extravagant and stuff,
yeah.
but it was one of those I kind of had the ability just to get on with it, and you know if you make an error, who cares? It's an error at the end of the day. Everyone makes them, and it's just what you do next, and like the more you forget about it, the better your game goes after that.
Yeah, 100%.
No, absolutely. So you mentioned Edinburgh earlier, Jason, because you said it was a really good experience for you. Just explain why that was. What was it about Edinburgh
Do
that
I
you enjoyed
talk
so
about a
much?
Tuesday night in Opal Lounge, or do I just?
You can do if you want. You can talk about whatever you like on this podcast. Let's have it.
I don't think many of our listeners live outside of NP postcodes anyway. You'll be all right.
No, do you know what? I think it was just because it was new to me as well. Like I was always a homeboy. You know,
Yeah.
I was always Risker, Crosskeys type of boy.
Mm,
Like obviously dragons through and through. Um, but then I'm sure it was obviously Lynn Jones was in charge at the time, and obviously Kingsley had brought his two sons in as well to play.
that's right. Yeah.
So obviously I was just like, what's going on here? Well, wasn't playing any rugby,
Yeah.
and Edinburgh were just looking for a 10. And Lynn mentioned it to me, and I was a bit like, "Oh shit, do I really want to move?" Um, Said yeah within literally like an hour. Then after that, and then the following morning, 7 o'clock, I was on a flight up to Edinburgh. So I didn't really have. I suppose the good thing about it, I didn't really have time to think about it. I was just gone.
Yeah.
Um, and then like how quickly they took me in as like one of their own. You know, literally within days, I was over the boys' house playing poker and. You know, it was that sort of environment. They were a close group of boys, and that week, funny enough, the week I was going up there it was the week we played the Dragons. So obviously I didn't care. I just told them every single play we had,
You briefed them, didn't
uh,
you?
and
Yeah.
Edinburgh ended up winning. So you know, it was kind of a bittersweet for me as well, just to kind of prove a point that um, you kind of shouldn't have let me go in a way as well. Um,
Yeah.
But I did, you know, it's such like great city as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, the boys are real close. Like the training invite, like you know, you're training at Murrayfield, which is you know is another great stadium. Um, and then you know, just the nightlife in Edinburgh is
Ooh,
such a good place as well. And like I said, Tuesday night in Opal Lounge isn't bad either.
I
But
have to take a visit, I think, to Opal Lounge. I like the sound of it already. Brilliant. Okay, so Judgment Day this week. Some supporters like it, some don't. Some would prefer that we had the home game at Ronnie Parade. Abby Tyranny did say this week on the Scrum 5 podcast that ticket sales are not going as well as they would like at the WRU. So don't know what the turnout's going to be. So as a player then, Jace, was it an event that you look forward to? How many Judgment Days did you take part in? Was it just the one with the Dragons, or did you play any in Cardiff?
No, two I done.
Yeah. So how did you feel about Judgment Day then?
I like. I didn't mind them just because I like how often am I going to get a chance to play in the stadium?
Yeah.
So I think boys who weren't international rugby players, I think loved it.
Mm,
Like all boys loved playing at the stadium, even the international boys. At Judgment Day, you're playing for your region in front of 50,000 people.
yeah.
But I can see people's, especially supporters, points in not liking it because they would like that home game that they used to. Obviously, the club is getting money into them as well. But I just are you really surprised ticket sales are not going as well at the moment? No, I'm not.
What's the factors then, Jace? What do you think the factors are for post-season, for ticket sales?
Is is the quality of rugby as good as it was five years ago, 5 to 10 years ago? I don't know. Um, I think like the WRU have probably pissed a lot of loyal supporters off as well,
Yeah.
who have been at the regions for so long, and they don't seem to be helping in any way. Obviously, they've obviously helped Cardiff at the moment, but before that, they weren't really helping anyone. I think a lot of the supporters have like backed the players as well, where the players were nearly getting screwed over a couple of years ago
Mm.
with all this contract stuff. So,
Oh,
and I don't think a lot of supporters have given the WRU any. I've forgiven them for that. The way they treated the boys and stuff. And I think you just look at the international games now. Like I used to go. Most Six Nations games when I was younger. Couldn't think of
yeah.
anything worse going now. The whole atmosphere is dead. It's not. You don't see many rugby people there anymore.
No.
Like
But
it's a lot of people just go in basically just for a piss up, and which you can't blame. At the end of the day, they're buying the tickets, so you can't blame them. But
It's a
you know,
double-edged sword, isn't it? You kind of need the event goers in there,
yeah,
don't you? You know?
yeah, and you like we went. I think we went on an ST social for one of the games. I can't remember. I think it was one of the autumn games, and like Cardiff was dead. It was literally dead. And I think that's just the way, and unfortunately, that's the way it's gone with the prices hiking up, even in the pubs and things like that. Prices are hiking. How much are you looking for if you want to take a family of four? How much are you looking to spend on a day? It's nearly 300-400 quid by the time you spend 80 quid on tickets.
Yeah.
You have a bit of food, a couple of drinks. It's not cheap anymore.
No.
That's right. It's a fair point. Do you remember, Jace, when you was on the Rap podcast? I think it was a year or two ago. We had you on, and we were talking about Welsh rugby. It was all the sexism and misogynism and all that
Ah,
stuff
yeah,
going on.
yeah, yeah,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Mm.
So things have changed a lot now. Things have got better. Some things have got much worse, but particularly on the field. How do you feel about Welsh rugby at the moment? Do you have any optimism at all with Abby Tierney and Richard Collier-Keywood and the hierarchy that things are going to change?
Uh, no,
I think that's a no then, yeah.
no. Honestly, no.
Yeah,
Um, and like reasons why I just think they are like the community game is dead at the moment. It is so dead, and I think you're relying on the community game as well for these people to go and watch the regions, watch international rugby, and
yeah,
I like they don't do it, like they probably don't do enough for that to promote it. Um, and I think like around my local around the team I play for NSD, there's 8 clubs in the space of 2 miles. Like, is that really sustainable for those clubs because they're picking players off each other? How long will it be before the WIU say, right, all these like some of these clubs are probably going to have to go through just to be able to put some leagues together.
yeah,
It's happening already to a degree, isn't it? Because Markham merged with someone, didn't they, a couple of
Yeah,
seasons ago, and it's starting to happen in the Welsh game now, isn't it?
yeah, and they got all these. they got all these different leagues as well at the moment. They got like East, West, Central,
Yeah.
East, whatever. It's just way too many for the not enough players either. I would love to see a stat from 10 years ago compared to now in how many players are playing actually community rugby. And again,
I sorry,
go-
God, I'm going to say I don't know what it is in Wales. I'm involved in the community game in England, and in
mm,
the last 20 years, it's gone down by 25%.
exactly, it's probably more in Wales because
Yeah.
you look, and when I was in school, the school's rugby was such at a high level as well. You had like you had all these cups running. It was such a big thing. Made a big thing of it. I don't believe of any school rugby at the moment. Nothing. And especially with them cutting all these hub offices now, which is a bit of a farce, really, because these guys are the ones trying to get school rugby back on the map and bring the next load of youngsters through.
Yeah, this is in the one strategy document which the WRU finally released
Mm.
after months and months of delay. And then when it came out, I read it thinking, well, I still like a bit more meat on the bones. They're very good at telling you what they want to do, but they're not very good at explaining how they're going to do it. So
Oh,
the hub officers, I mean, that's something that you think it's a bad move, isn't it?
yeah, I think so because risk of comp, which is just up the road from me. They've never ever been a rugby school. They put a hub officer in there now, and they've got rugby years all the way like from sevens all the way through to 11, like year 11. So it's clearly doing something right, and I just think that's an easy target for them to save money on that side of things.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you say about the too many clubs though, because in this one Wales strategy as well, the WRU do say, and I quote, there are likely too many clubs even for the number of male players.
Mm.
So they seem to recognise, don't they, that maybe there are too many clubs in Wales.
But that's a simple thing. A simple solution to a not simple situation,
Yeah, it's fair
because
enough.
you
Yeah.
become welded to your club,
Mm.
and club I play for, we could merge with the club that's 200 yards from my house, but we don't want to because we're different clubs.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has to come naturally.
yeah,
No,
and I think
fair point.
it's like in these lower divisions, you do get the problem is you get a lot of money flying around as well, and it's just like that's what's destroying it. Is you put like you've got these youth teams, you've got 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I know teams who are paying 18-year-olds just coming out of youth 50 quid a game.
Really? Bloody
They're in
hell.
Division 4. It's like,
That's not right, is it?
do
No,
you
Oh,
know,
that's madness.
and
not right.
like just for them to get a team on the pitch, but they're pretty much bottom of that league.
Mm.
And you're just like, what's the point? We're like, whereas teams like NSD, we've kept boys from Division 6 now who are playing in the Championship rugby. They literally stay there because I think we get 150 free pints on a Saturday between everyone in the team, which works. It doesn't work out when there's. I think we run two sides. You're in a first and a second, so between everyone, it's not a lot, but it's what keeps the boys together. It's just having that fun. That's all those boys want to do is just have fun with each other on a Saturday.
That's the whole
Yeah.
point of playing the game, really, isn't it? Because how many people get to the level you did? There's
Yeah,
very few. The vast majority of us are scratching around on a Saturday, hanging out with our mates, having a few beers. That's why we all do it,
yeah, exactly. And
ultimately.
like we don't give a shit about results up there. We've lost games 70-80-0 this year, but it doesn't bother us. We literally do not care. But it's not everyone's like that, are they? They'd rather
No.
pay money, try and win a league. As soon as they know they can't win the league, they pull the money, and the team goes back down to Division 6.
But we've seen like big clubs like Tredegar get folded. It shouldn't be happening.
No,
But
exactly, exactly.
Absolutely. Right, let's talk about Judgment Day then, 2019. This is one of the big reasons we got you on here, Jace. This is your moment now. So, Dragons 34, Scarlets 32. That was the final score. The build up to this game was quite spicy, wasn't it? I don't know if you remember this. So, Scarlets assistant coach at the time, Johan Cunningham, he
Mm.
admitted bonus points were on the Scarlets' mind because that's what they needed to qualify for the Champions Cup, and they were pushing for the top 8. He said a bonus point is extremely important and will come into the situation. Now, friend of the pod, Kerry Jones, who was the interim Dragons head coach at the time, he wasn't happy. Oh, no, he was not happy with that. He accused the Scarlets of being arrogant. So this is what he said. They're pretty arrogant about where they are. Should they be beating us? Yeah, with the budget and squad they've got. but let's wait and see. Now, it's important to point out at this point that there was no salary caps in Wales. So Scarlets were on around about 8 million or close to 8 million at the time, and Dragons would have been under 5 million. So that's where he's talking about the budget and the squad. So yeah, it was a bit different back then. Scarlets had a pretty hefty budget. He said, we have to play our part in the game and get the performance that we know we can put out there, as we have shown in the Welsh derbies this season. Anything can happen off the back of that. And it's pretty arrogant of the Scarlets to say they're going to be going out there to chase the bonus point. But that's up to them. And let's see what happens. Now, I can't work out if Scarlets were being arrogant or whether they were just being honest and saying, look, we need a bonus point to achieve what we need to this season. Did you feel the Scarlets were arrogant at all? Do you remember that, Jace?
To be honest, I never really paid any attention to any of that. It's just like, I think people could say what they want and someone would put a spin on it and turn it into something it's not. But no, to me, it was one of those things. I knew it was my last game for the Dragons as well, so
Yeah.
I was just like, it is what it is, wherever. I don't really care. But it's always quite a spicy game against them, because I remember we played like 5 years prior to that when we beat them at Rodney Parade just after the Lions come back from, was it Australia? I think it was.
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah, no, it would have been then, yeah.
Yeah, and we beat them. I remember we beat them at Rodney Parade then. And that was quite a spicy game as well. So, game always, Welsh derbies are always going to be boys going hammer and tong at each other, and this one was never going to be any different.
No, it's fair enough. I just wondered though, did Kerry Jones speak about that to the players, like in the team talk? Did he mention this about Scots being arrogant and to go out there, boys, and prove a point? Was it talked about at all in the dressing room?
It probably was. It was probably said in the team, like obviously the day before you do a team run, and we usually always have a meeting just before, just to talk about things we're going to do and whatever. And I'm sure he would have mentioned it back then, but I was probably sat at the back of the room on my phone just scrolling through Facebook.
He wasn't listening, was it? Let's be honest. He wasn't listening. Yeah. Fair enough. So in terms of the game itself, we were 17-6 down at halftime. And I was at the stadium thinking, we really shouldn't be 76. I didn't think we played that bad. Yeah. And Kerry was not happy at halftime. He said, it was an interesting discussion at halftime, let's say. I don't often lose my temper, but I did a bit because I felt that we controlled the first 50 minutes. Is it worth asking, do you remember what was said at halftime in the changing room? I can't imagine Kerry Jones being angry.
No, he was quite like he wasn't like an angry bloke, but like obviously like the tone of his voice, you could see, like you could tell, the deeper it got, you could see the more like obviously angry he was getting. Yeah. But I think it was more of one of those talks where like, how the hell are we this far down? Yeah. When we've literally been kind of running the game, we've probably given 2 soft tries. But to be fair, the boys went back out there and they reacted then at halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dragons stormed back in the second half to lead 27-17, thanks to tries by Matthew Screech, Jack Dixon and Josh Lewis. The Scots did come back into the game, but the Dragons went over at the death through Matthew Screech. The try was finally awarded after a long wait. I mean, my God, how long did it take for the TMO to give the green light? It felt like forever. Like I said to you before we started recording, I watched the game back. You could see he grounded it. So I don't know why it took so long for him to give the green light, but they did. So up steps a certain Mr. Tovey. The chance to secure a famous win for the Dragons and their first ever Judgement Day win. And to be fair, it wasn't an easy kick either. So this is your moment now, Jason. Talk us through it. Talk us through that moment.
Well, there's a funny story before we actually get to that, right? So the day before, we're doing a team run at Ashramonach. Yeah. And the Dragons kicking coach at the time, Alan Kingsley.
Yeah, Irishman, yeah.
He wanted me and Josh Lewis to go to the stadium to do some goal kicking. And me just being me and just can't be asked. knowing it was my last game, I just went home. I was like, no, I'm not driving.
That's so you. It's so you. Oh, dear.
I was paying money for tickets that day.
I was like, I'm not
can't be asked.
I'm not driving all the way down there. I'm not driving all the way down there to kick 9 kicks at goal just to drive all the way back down. But obviously he weren't happy about that. He was trying to ring me and stuff like that, and I was just like, nah, no answering. um, and then,
Oh God.
so obviously, Alan and Josh went down to the stadium to do some kicking,
Yeah.
and then I didn't end up going. I just stayed in the house and played on Call of Duty, I think. And obviously, yeah, the day of the game, I think I went on with 15 minutes to go. I think something like that. I'm not really too sure. Obviously, Screechy scored about on the 15-meter line, but for some reason I ended up taking the kick nearly on the 5-meter line.
Yeah.
But we were stood there for ages. Obviously, Alan was there with my tee, just waiting for. I think Ben Whitehouse was referee, wasn't he? And
He was, yeah.
we all know what he's like, so we won't go into that. And then obviously I think I must have took about 2.5 minutes, but it felt about 10 minutes just being stood out there, just being like, right, any chance? Or
Yeah.
and then yeah, just literally stepped. Well, obviously done my run up, and as I'm about to start, literally the ball falls off the tee. I'm like, brilliant, here we go. And but I remember thinking in my head, being like, if I don't kick this now, Alan Kingsley's going to go absolutely berserk at me because we had a chance to come down here yesterday and do some kicking, and this is like, well, the type of stuff you do. And luckily for me, I just managed to like literally just caressed it through the middle of the post.
Yeah.
And I turned round and as I'm running back, I turned round and said to him, I was like, that's why I don't come down here. But to be fair, I was never one of those who like done loads and loads and loads of goal kicking. I'd literally just, even on a game day when you just before the warm up starts, I'm literally 9 kicks and I'm happy, I'm done. It's like I just hard to say, but I just got bored.
Can I ask you something about your goal kicking? Was it right? You held a record in Euro. Was it like 30 in a row or something ridiculous?
No, so that was all together. That was Magners League. I think it was the EDF Cup at the time, I think.
Oh yeah.
And Europe, it was 32 in a row, I think. And the one I missed was, I think we played Munster at home, and I hit the post, and that ended it. So it was like I know the record was about 36, something like that.
Oh, was it?
So sorry, Neil Jenkins's record was it international rugby was like 35, 36. So I remember actually trying to aim for that, and then obviously hit the post, and it just ended then. So
and then did something happen with your kicking? Because was it a year or two later? It maybe would be fair to say it went off the boil. And was there rumours that there was a change in style from Welsh management?
Off the boil, it went the rat shit.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite, but yeah.
He's trying to be polite there, Jace, yeah.
Yeah, so I tried to like it was nothing to do with anyone else. I just tried to change things, because I wasn't a big goal kicker.
Yeah.
I was like 40 meters was probably my max distance, and that was like only just reaching the post. So I tried to change it a little bit and just try to, have a longer run up and, try and put a bit more into it. And it just, completely fell apart. But I'm too stubborn to like think this ain't working. I'm going to carry on with it. But I think eventually I gave in and I just thought I had to change because I know I was like, the type of kicks I was missing were dreadful.
Yeah, I remember being on the terrace and being like, what's happened to him?
It was like watching...
It
was like watching Rory McIlroy in the last day of the Masters again. Like, what's going on?
So I've got a question, Jason. My lad is a 10 and a left-footed 10. And I was talking to you today, and he was saying, ask him like one tip about kicking. So, bear in mind, my son will pay no attention as a really lazy player. but what do I say to him that's going to turn him into a world-class kicker?
I think just be comfortable with what you're comfortable with. Like, if you're not the type of person to, there's a difference between someone like myself and Lee Halfpenny, for example. He would probably be out in the field kicking 1,000 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, he's one of the best kickers in the world. But I was the type of person who just done enough to what I was ready for. Mm-hmm. So I think don't kind of like copy anyone else. Just do what you think your routine is. If that's kicking 12 goals a day and you're happy, or whether that's kicking 100 goals a day. Just do what's right for you.
He's
good
just
advice.
shouted at me he's not lazy, but yeah, I'll pass that on to him.
No, that's good advice, that is. So going back to Judgment Day then, because like I said, I did watch the game back. You looked really nervous, Chase. You take a big, deep breath, and I don't think I've ever seen you look that nervous before. Was you nervous when you took that kick? Was that the most nervous you've ever been, or
No, I actually was. That was the funny thing about it. I actually
really?
wasn't.
You
No,
looked it though.
I was white. Um, no, I remember people asking me. They were like, "Oh, were you nervous?" And
Yeah.
weirdly, I wasn't.
Hmm.
And usually, like even the easiest kicks at goal, I was quite a nervous player,
Yeah.
but I didn't for that kick. I don't know whether it was because I kind of thought to myself, right, this is my moment, and I'm gonna nail it. So I don't know whether
Yeah.
that was the reason why.
And you did. Fair play.
Yeah.
And we will be sharing that kick on the socials this week. We will be doing it. We will be doing it. Brilliant. Okay, so let's talk about Dragons in the present day. It's been an awful season. We can't sugarcoat it, and we don't on this podcast, in fairness. Back in January, though, you did write this on X. You wrote, "Where did the Dragons go from here? Very young team and lacking a lot of leadership on the pitch and in the stand," which I think we all agree with. That's
Hmm.
absolutely fine. We all agree with that. Next season, however, we have got some new guys coming in, such as Dylan Lewis, Seb Davis. Now, you played with those guys, didn't you, Jace, at
Yeah, yeah,
Cardiff?
yeah.
And then we got Thomas Young coming in, Wyn Jones, British Line, of course, and there is more to come. Do
Wyn
you think
Jones died.
Wyn Jones from Harlequins?
Not
I did not
officially
know.
announced, is
Yeah,
it?
it's
But
not
Oh,
it,
not
officially
announced
announced.
yet,
Ah,
no.
I
but
But he
didn't
has
know
he's
signed. We're
that.
waiting for that. Yeah,
Ah.
Tinas De Beer as well, another Cardiff player. So do you think those are the kind of players that can provide the leadership and experience to the squad that you say that we're lacking?
Yeah, do you know what? I think so because don't get they're international players,
Mm,
and do you know what? They've still got a lot of quality rugby in them, and like they're not current internationals either. So you're gonna see them
yeah,
all year round. I think what the Dragons have struggled with is the overseas signings. The likes when I was coming through, you had the likes of like Tom Willis,
yeah, remember him?
Hawani McDonald.
Yeah,
You know
Landman,
the Lamman. Even like
Brock.
people like Brock, Joe Bierman. He come from Cornwall, but
Yeah,
you're signing these types of players who made a difference, and
yeah,
they were still young enough as well. You got to be fair, you had what, 2 or 3 years out of Tom, like good years out of Tom Willis. And he ended up being captain. Even like you're signing players like Matthew J. When he played for us, he was an unbelievable player.
yeah, he was.
Um, and they were experienced players. And you look at that Dragons team now, and there isn't anything in there over like they're a very young team. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah,
that there can't be many boys over 30, 31 in that team. And
no,
when you're in games and you're winning 20 points to 7 with 10 minutes to go and you end up losing the game, that's where you want those experienced players come in, and they know how to shut games down, they know how to win games. And I think that's what's probably lacking at the moment. And the problem is you can blame the players because they're the ones on there at the time. Do they care that much about winning and losing? Like, is it that type of, has rugby gone that way, whereas there's not so much of a care about it anymore? Um, but and I just think, is there an old like? I just think you spend big on a coach, spend big money on a coach, and be like, right, you've got 3 years now. No matter what happens in these 3 years, like they stay for the 3 years and they just rebuild the whole place. They
yeah,
build it from the bottom, so they sort the academy out. They get them play, like these academy boys don't play any rugby, you know. Like when I was growing up, they were playing on a Wednesday, Saturday. So you were
mm.
playing 2 games a week, and don't get me wrong, it's probably too much rugby now, but it was you were just playing so much rugby and just getting that rugby into you and just learning new things every game you were playing.
Well, to be fair, we have got Super Rugby coming now, so those youngsters are getting some more rugby, aren't they?
Yeah,
Than there
yeah,
was in the past, like.
yeah, yeah. But Yeah, it's always one of those, isn't it? You always look at the signings and think, oh, yeah, it's going to be the Dragons year, and then by December you're like, yeah, maybe
Yes.
not. But
By October, I think he was
yeah,
thinking, oh,
but I do think the boys you mentioned who are coming in, they're good, experienced players, um, and they have won big games as well. So if them boys help you to win five more games than the one you've won this year, then there's a bonus, and it's dragging those boys who are young enough with getting more wins under their belt, so they know what that winning feeling is. And then
yeah,
the following year, then you might get to like 10 wins. It's just trying to build momentum like that. You can't beat the winning feeling.
no, spot on. So you mentioned coaching earlier there, Jace. We have got an experienced coach coming in, we were told. They're going to look after the defence side of things. That's to be announced. But obviously, Dave Flanagan was sadly dispensed with.
Hmm.
We've had him on the pod, lovely guy. Philo Tiatia, pretty underwhelming if we're being honest, but he is going to be our new head coach, and well, he is our head coach now, isn't he? So we're going to support him. How did you feel about that, Dave Flanagan parting? Did you see it coming? Because I think a lot of people were quite surprised by it.
Um, at the end of the day, it's a results-based business, isn't it?
Yeah,
And just because somebody is a nice guy, you can't keep them. But I probably wouldn't have got rid of him.
no,
I would have maybe give him a different role as, like, maybe the backs or attack or something like that. I would have kept hold of him because he's an intelligent guy, and he's a rugby man.
yeah,
He lives and breathes rugby.
absolutely. Even Scarlets fans now they still think they're worth him because he did brilliant work there with the
Yeah.
academy and the backs. And I hope he's not lost to Welsh rugby. I hope he will find a new job soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about NSD then. Bit like the Dragons, just talk. It's been a tough old season, hasn't it, Jace? Do you want to tell us about NSD, how things have been going?
Yeah. It's been a challenging season. I think the hardest thing for us is the 2 years we've been promoted from Div 1 to from Div 2 to Div 1, and then from Div 1 to Championship. We finished third both years. So it's like,
Yeah,
should we really have gone up? Um, but look, we knew we're not a dumb enough club to realize we're way above where we should be. Um, you know, we played Nelson, I think, last game on a Wednesday night, and whoever won that game got promoted to the championship.
yeah,
And we had a hell of a celebration after that win. But then reality kicked into what we're walking into next year. Playing against Bedworth, Glamorgan Wanderers, Rumney. We're like, oh, here we
yeah,
go. But do you know what? We've had fun this year in the championship. We've played teams that the club have never played before. We've gone down to St Peter's, Cardiff. We played Glamorgan Wanderers. Like, the club would never play Bedros, because they were so high up the leagues, and they've had the
yeah,
opportunity to do that. And we always knew what we were walking into, having like I said, having a few hammerings. But our goal this year was to just be in the fight for to stay up. If we go down, we go down. But and like we didn't want to go down without winning games, and I think we've won 5 or 6 games this year, which for us, is a massive achievement. But and we're still in it at the moment. But we're under no illusions that we're way above our pay grade.
yeah. But you're enjoying it though, aren't you? It does sound like when you talk about NSD, you are enjoying it.
Oh, do you know, I love it up there. And I went through a bit of a bad patch of rugby, and like I just wasn't enjoying, like, coming out of that pro sort of rugby. I didn't want to go and play for like a Newport or a Crossky, that
Yeah,
level. I wanted to step down and enjoy it with my friends because I've never had that chance to do it. And do you know what, it kind of give me a bit of a new lease of life. That, I love rugby. I love being taken the piss out of after a Saturday just for doing something stupid.
yeah,
When you're having a few pints with like your friends and in the club, and like the last thing they want to do is when they get off the field is talk about rugby.
yeah,
It's all about putting bets on, and just something completely, well, like what takeaway they're having. They're just completely different. Like they got no care for, like, what's going on in rugby. They just love being out from away from the missus on a Saturday afternoon.
you enjoy the social side of it, Jeff, don't you? Let's be honest, you enjoy that part.
Yeah, I don't want to admit that.
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Ah, fair play to you. Jace, we'll let you go now, unless Gareth, any
No.
further questions before?
Oh,
There we
can
go.
I mention one thing? You mentioned the game against Cardiff as a good memory when Steph Evans scored that try. No,
Jones.
Steph Jones, sorry, yeah. It's literally my favourite rugby memory at the Dragons. We were up by 9, but even just being the Dragons, still nervous, and we were on our own line. We turned the ball over, and it goes out to you, literally on your line, and we're just thinking, fucking just boot it, Jace. And you dummy the kick, and you go past a certain mouthy ex-Welsh international number 7, leave him for absolute dead, put the ball in the corner, and I think Wayne Evans drops a goal off that
Yeah,
line
that's right.
out.
Yeah, I
And it
remember
was
that.
that we steal. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, if Warburton could have backtracked a bit quicker then, as quick as he is now, might have been good. But
Hey,
it was. Oh, it was honest. It was absolutely. I'm pretty sure you threw your boots into the crowd
Uh,
after that game.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, the worst thing was I threw my boots in the crowd and I smacked some old man straight in the face with them. So they put a complaint into the Dragons then the following week.
Oh, never.
So
Oh, dear me. It
I thought
was.
at
It
the
was
time,
going off.
it was, and do you know what? And I think that was where we were. Like, we weren't the greatest team in the world, but we were a hell of a dog team as well. You know, it took
Oh
a
yeah.
lot. Like, even when we lost games, it took a lot for people to beat us.
oh, I miss those days.
Um,
We talk about it on the pod, don't we? We miss those days so much, where there was the
yeah,
dog and the fight and the grit
yeah.
in the Dragons team.
And I think that was the thing. We knew exactly the type of team we were.
Yeah,
And literally our goal every game was to make it hell for other teams. Like, if they were going to win, they were going to have to win the hard way.
quite right.
Yeah. Loved
And
it.
I think the supporters seen that, so they always got behind it no matter what. And like doing that half lap during the warm up when
Yeah.
that Hazel stand was like rammed full was like, do you know, I was one of the best. Like, every time I done it, it always used to give you a little bit of a shiver going into the changing room.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's
So
quality. But then we had loads of dog, but we played some serious rugby as well. And that's one thing I wouldn't mind mentioning. Like the relationship you had with Alid Brew. I don't know how many assists you must have given him. What was that about?
I don't know. I just think the thing with Brewy, he he was 100% no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if he was in defence, he'd be trying to hurt people, and even when he had the ball, he was trying to hurt people when he run over them.
Yeah.
And just like, even like just me and him after training, we always used to practice those little chips over the top, and just me swinging around on the left side and hitting him
Oh.
down the wing. You know, I think we just had that type of relationship. Like, once it worked once, we just kept, well, we might as well keep it this now. And he used to work. I tell you, he used to work well with like Wayne Evans at 9 as well. You know,
Yeah.
they're close mates, and you know, they always used to work well together. So he was always one of those who he would try and work with the person he was with.
Yeah. Not many wingers used to come off their wing to take a crash ball off a 9, do they? Like
No, no, literally,
he's a beast.
yeah, he didn't mind the contact side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Quality times. Loved it.
Oh, I wish we could go back to those days.
Ah, me and my old man say all the time, like, oh, remember those days? It's like, why we still go? Because we're
Yeah,
like, it's
you're
not
waiting
just,
for it. You're waiting for
just
it.
because the atmosphere over there, it's just like to experience it was amazing. Just being in the stands, like alone on the pitch, I can imagine it was
Yeah,
awesome. But
I just still wish they never got rid of that Argus stand. Still wish to this day they didn't do it. I know obviously you've got to try and keep up with times, but I was on about the other. Funny enough, I was walking up Greg's with my mother, and we were talking about it, and we were on about like when they used to have obviously the family stand was down the bottom when they like the tent, the
yeah,
covered one. They had the boxes down the bottom end,
Yeah.
and then they had that Argus stand. But then even after games, all the players used to go down to the bottom clubhouse, and they used to mix with the supporters, and you know, it was that type of place. We knew where we were we knew who we were as a club, but everyone was in it together.
Yeah. There was that identity there, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
I think we've
yeah.
lost that over the years. It pains me to say that, but I really think we have as a club.
Mm.
We've lost our identity.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe one day we'll get back and make Rodney Parade the fortress it used to be, and when it really was a horrible place for opposing teams to come. We'll
Well,
get it. We'll get
just
it.
remember we beat like a Munster team fully loaded with O'Gara, O'Connell. You know,
Yeah.
we turned some big teams over.
We had Paul Turner on the pod. He used to say, "Oh, we used to beat Munster and Leinster regularly at home, and Connacht and Ulster." But he's right, we did.
Ospreys we beat all the time at home, even with all this
Still
superstar.
do. We still do, to be fair.
One thing I had to mention as well. Sorry
when he stuck his 2 fingers up to the crowd and then kicked it out on the full.
Yeah, quality. He was again, I used to work with my old man, and the one time we beat the Ospreys, and there was a massive, back when you would get a physical paper, Wales on Sunday, and the back page was Tovey lands knockout blow on bigger, and we literally added up where we worked, we were like, yeah, loving that, like all the time. We're like, yeah. My brother bumped into Gatland because we, he stayed behind clapping and all for ages, especially after a big win, and we were well oiled. And we seen Gatland in the concourse underneath, and my brother's giving him stick. Get Tovey in the squad. Get Tovey in the squad.
That turned out well, didn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, mate. You might have pissed him off a bit there.
But to be fair, Jace, you did get in the squad, didn't you? But then you came back out again. That's the only problem, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. But to be fair, though, you did say that wasn't for you, didn't you? I remember you was on Rap and you talked about the training camp, and you was just like, "Nah, this ain't for me." And you were just honest, wasn't you?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love rugby, but I just didn't love it that much, and I was just quite happy just playing for the Dragons
and playing Call of Duty and stuff.
Yeah,
I've always loved your honesty, fair play.
And a lot more golf, that's for sure.
Oh, excellent! It's been brilliant, Jason. We will let you go now. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, and all the best to you and the family, and good luck to NSD.
Yeah, cheers, boys. No worries. Cheers. Catch you later.
Bye. There we go, Jason Tovey there. Do you know what I always love about Jason? He admits, doesn't he, that I didn't really put the work in. Yeah, I was a bit lazy, but I like that. I love his honesty. But he was a talented player. I love Tovey. He was super talented.
Yeah.
He was a generation out. I think if he was my age and had played, in the 80s, it'd have been a different thing for him.
And he used to get a lot of stick sometimes from supporters, didn't he? Because they used to call him lazy and he looked like he didn't care. But that's just how he was. That was his nature. But he delivered for us more times than not. And
he's our best ever 10 for me.
Really? You'd say that?
If I pick a Dragons dream team, he's my 10. A young Jason Tovey in his prime, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, he was a bit of a
when he was kicking 33 out of 33, not that season after when he couldn't hit a barn door.
Oh, it's great to get him on. Fair play. Dragons legend. Right, let's move on to news.
Nothing happened in Welsh rugby this week, did it?
Something did actually happen. Something did actually happen. Brought back memories, actually. So, there were rumours for months about Cardiff's financial problems. I mentioned it to you guys a couple of times. There were rumours that Helford Capital had put very little money into Cardiff and were struggling to make payments. And lo and behold, those rumours were true. It was confirmed that Cardiff had entered administration and they would be taken over by the WRU because Helford Capital had failed to meet their financial obligations. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I have mates who are Cardiff supporters and I feel for them. We as Dragon supporters know exactly how they're feeling. We have been through this before, of course. Our club nearly went to the wall twice, actually, once before WRU ownership and during WRU ownership. We all remember that story David Buttress told us when he was driving on the way to Australia. He was preparing to tell the players that the Dragons were going to cease to exist. Thankfully, a deal was done. So we completely understand the concerns and worries that Cardiff fans have. And there are some good people at Cardiff. And these are people's livelihoods at stake as well. We should remember that, and they have my sympathies. However, to the vocal minority of Cardiff supporters on social media, and I think we all know who I'm talking about here, the people who constantly hammered Dragons during union ownership, circulated unfounded claims that we received an additional, 10 million extra from the union, I believe it was, which David Buttress debunked on this very podcast. Abby Tierney debunked it, and so did the Dragon Supporters Club. They were advocating for the WRU to close us down and go to 3 teams. All this talk about a conflict of interest, etc. The people who gave David Buttress a very hard time on social media, calling him things like a snake oil salesman, Walter Mitty, saying he had no intention of ever taking the Dragons private. To those Cardiff supporters, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. And I hope this is a valuable lesson to Sam Warburton and the vocal minority of Cardiff supporters who are advocating for the Dragons to be cut. The lesson here is get your own house in order before you start calling for the demise of other teams. Because life can come at you pretty fast. There's been a lot of backtracking, a lot of deleting of old tweets. And those people right now are looking very, very silly. So that's my thoughts on it. Gareth, what was your reaction to Cardiff going into administration being taken over by the WRU?
Yeah, I think I'd echo what you've said. Like it's a shame, and I think I'm glad the WRU have stepped in to save Cardiff. I'm an advocate that we have four pro clubs in Wales. I don't think they should be saved just because they're the capital city team, but they should be saved because if any of the regions were in this this state, they should be saved. It does concern me how have they got in this state, and what does it mean for them moving forward? As an example, are Cardiff under WRU ownership going to be able to invest in a marquee player beyond the cap? Are they going to be even meeting the salary cap, or are they going to have to cut their cloth accordingly? But yeah, they've got my sympathies. Apart from those select few who are pretty vocal on social media, who are pretty nasty, really. The situation we've been in before, they don't have my sympathy. Maybe they should come out and put their hands up and actually take ownership of what they've said, maybe rather than deleting old tweets. But yeah. It's a shame. I don't think we were afforded the same sympathies that Cardiff are getting. You know, Cardiff hasn't been bombed. It's almost as if they've been wiped out by Russia. It's the club's in a bad way, but the WRU are bailing them out. Great, crack on.
Yeah, I do echo what you said then. It was absolutely right that the WRU stepped in to help Cardiff, just as it was when they stepped in to help us out.
Yeah.
It is the right thing to do. You got to look at, they are the capital city. I know you just said, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, just because of the capital, but in terms of the population, the business base, this is a club with history and heritage. It's absolutely right that the WRU steps in. But what I will say, and I'll make this very clear, as I have done social media, I want Cardiff now to be under the same level of scrutiny as we were. Because I have a funny feeling now, those people who are posting company's house statements, I don't think they're going to be doing that anymore. Funny that, isn't it? Funny that. Gavin, what was your thoughts on it?
Well, really the same as you guys. We need 4 clubs. So losing a club, be it Cardiff, not really part of my thinking. It's sad for the people who work there. It's sad for the vast majority of Cardiff fans who are good people, and you can have really positive chats about the game. Do I think it's a bad day for Welsh rugby? No. It's a bad day for Cardiff. That's their problem. That's not my problem. And my sympathy doesn't extend any further beyond that. Did I cry when Wilkinson's closed down? No, because, there's other places I can get my mopeds from. It's not.
You can't compare the Grand Old Club to Cardiff Rugby to bloody Wilkinson's calf.
It's a bad
allergies.
It's a badly run business, man. Cardiff and this isn't the Grand Old Club of Cardiff. This is Cardiff Regional Rugby, starting 2004. This isn't Cardiff RFC.
Oh, I disagree with you, Gareth. They're the same. They are one. Same with the Scarlets. They've always been the Llanelli Scarlets. They are the same. It's just a continuation.
Course
That's why they paid £1 million to stand alone.
No,
this is
course there is. No, course there is, because the WRU bodged it when they should have either done one thing or the other, but ended up standing in the middle and getting it wrong. But it's. Do I have any sympathy? Really? It's a rugby club that's struggling. There's loads of them. There's loads of them who haven't personally called for the destruction of our club. So,
yeah. But like I said, we do offer our sympathies to the good people of Cardiff, and there are quite a lot of them. We can't tear them all off.
No.
The same brush, because we've been through this. We understand what it's like. We get it.
And the people who work there, who work there, the ones I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Because it's their jobs.
No, exactly. We need to remember that. Sam Warburton has left the Cardiff board. He left couple of weeks before the news broke. He said, clearly saying there should be a reduction in the number of regions was always going to cause some awkwardness for the Cardiff board. Well, yes, Sam, because it's a conflict of interest, mate, and you're on the board. He said, I was blissfully unaware of such developments being considered. But when the news broke on Tuesday, I was as shocked as anyone.
Were you? Really?
Unbelievable.
Really, Sam? Really? You're telling me as a member of the Cardiff board, and I appreciate that you were not a director, you was on an advisory role. I get that. I think there has been some misunderstanding regarding Warburton's role on the Cardiff board. But you seriously tell me with your connections, being on the Cardiff board, you did not see this coming when the rumours were going on for what, months? Really? Do we believe him?
No.
Not a chance.
Of course he knew.
He's just lost all credibility for me. Like
massive. Yeah.
I don't think I'll read or listen to anything he says moving forward because it's just waffle.
But the whole Cardiff thing has been deflection for weeks. I don't know if you follow. He tweets under the name Ron Swanson. Clearly, know his actual name, and he was tweeting 4 or 5 weeks ago.
He was
serious financial issues in Cardiff, and Cardiff fans, including some ones we named, were, no, there isn't. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, no, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
It does concern me. Was Warburton trying to get another region scrap, like us, like you mentioned, that could potentially save Cardiff by having more money ploughed into them? What was his motive?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
It doesn't make sense, though, does it? Because they took over in January. All the supporters were cock-a-hoop about it. They were posting Man City Blue Moon gifts. We all remember that. That's been deleted, of course, now. Coincidence. Remember, they were linked to Faf de Klerk as well. They were, Halford were going to put this money in, and it's quite remarkable what's happened. It's sad what's happened, really, but it is quite remarkable. It just shows that pro rugby is unpredictable. Anything can happen. And nobody is really safe because people talk about the history and heritage of Cardiff, for example. Well, we all remember the history and heritage of a club like Wasps. They won European Cups and championships, etc. It happened to them. It can happen to Cardiff.
London Irish, one of the oldest clubs in the game. Yeah. Right? They went as well. And I don't know if you saw Bruce Robinson, the Bath chairman? I was reading an interview. Bruce Craig, that's it.
Yeah.
Bruce Robinson directed with Neil and I. Very different people.
Yeah, very different, yeah.
Bruce Craig was saying that basically over the last 15 years, he's put about £20 million of his own money into the club. And he said, Bath are dominant, Bath are strong because I've funded them and that's the only reason why. Eventually someone else will have to do it because I can't do it forever. And rugby has never got the business model right for being a professional club.
It does, again,
a professional sport.
Really thankful for our owners. I think it really reinforces that we are lucky. And how on earth we're finishing in the black, or predicted to finish in the black, is amazing. We are being well run. And we probably moaned that it was getting championed a bit at the Dragons earlier in the season because obviously we want to see results, which is still true. But it's good to know we are on a solid footing. But, please let's win some games next season.
Yes, that's fine. But that's the bare minimum I expect.
Yeah.
If you're running a business, which it is, well, run it effectively.
We are the worst. Yeah, you're right. But we are the worst team in the league. It's been a tough all season. Results have been very difficult the past couple of years. Well, maybe more than that, let's be honest. But ironically, wouldn't you rather be in our position than Cardiff right now? We own our own stadium.
Yeah.
We earn the revenue from Newport County, the food and drink. Look at the event. We're hosting the Bucks final this week.
Yeah.
There is so much commercial opportunity at our club than there are, I think, at the other three. Cardiff didn't own their own ground. That's owned by Cardiff Athletics. So the problem they're going to have is, I'm sure there will be some interested parties, but they're not going to have an asset. Whereas the owners were lucky that they had an asset with Rodney Parade. They had to get Rodney Parade. So now they can sweat the asset and make revenue off that. Whereas the other teams can't really do that, can they?
And not to give him more airtime, but that ex-Wales number 7 has publicly said this week that Cardiff Athletic should look to sell the ground to Cardiff. And you just stop trying to use your influence to put pressure on people. It's not sitting right with me. The thing is coming out of his mouth.
The thing is, he's a Cardiff boy. Cardiff grew up supporting Cardiff. It was through being a club that he came through. He's Cardiff through. He's going to do that. He's going to use his mouthpiece. I think my issue is with what he was saying about us. Uh, on the point of us being a well-run business, or if we were a well-run business as far as numbers go, we still on well-run on the field, and that's a bigger issue for me.
Are we the worst pro team in Europe?
Yeah, we've got the worst record of any.
I think Newcastle got more wins, but then it's all relative because they play in a different league, different players, and it's been a horrible season. But the irony is, I'd rather be in our position right now than Cardiff's.
Oh yeah,
where they've been. They don't know what the future holds. Short term, they're fine. They're covered by the WRU, but long term, it's still pretty uncertain, isn't it? I just wonder though, and this has been raised a lot. This question: if this was the Ospreys. If this was the Scarlets, would the WRU be so quick to step in? I don't think they would.
I think they would.
You think they would?
Yeah, I think they would.
I don't think they would. I don't think they would. I don't think they'd do this for the Ospreys. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they would. What about you, Gav? Do you think they would if it was the Ospreys or Scarlets?
I don't think they would.
Neither do I.
I would want them to, though. I'm still, again, I'm an advocate for full pro clubs. But yeah, I think it would maybe make an easy decision for them. But they'd never live down letting Cardiff die, would they?
No.
Well, they've already said it's unthinkable not to have rugby in a and they are right in a way, but then in another sense, they're sort of saying, it's unthinkable, not to step in for Cardiff. So then you think, well, is it thinkable then not to step in for the Ospreys if they were in trouble? Would it be thinkable not to step in for Sky? It does open a can of worms. And like I said, we've been on the receiving end. We know this, don't we?
I think we've landed at our natural place for where Welsh Pro Rugby is played now. Our Welsh Pro Rugby is played in Llanelli, Swansea, Cardiff, and Newport, and they have to maintain those things. Mind you, this week I've seen all the. Well, they should have a region in the north, and they should just have two regions in the south again. What? Why are they? Well, they could have a region in the north to play in a place where I used to take kids to do school sports day, to play in front of 45 people. Yeah, that'd be great. That's sustainable.
Especially when you would be competing against football in the north. You've got no chance beating it up there.
Stadium Zip World, as they call it, or as it's actually called, Arias Park in Colwyn Bay, where RGC plays. I used to teach in the school across the road from it, and we used to take our kids there for sports day. It's about as suited for professional rugby as I am.
No, fair enough. But just before we move on, though, our thoughts are with the good guys at Cardiff. We've come out the other end. Okay, we are bad on the pitch, but actually off the field, we are in the strongest position of any Welsh team. So hopefully now Cardiff, this will, in a good way, perhaps this will get their finances back on track. I mean, if they could find a way to get control of Cardiff Arms Park from the Athletic Club, easier said than done, because it is an old farts committee. The relationship between Cardiff Rugby and Cardiff Athletic Club, it has always been, it's been a bit tumultuous, let's just say. But no, I wish them well, and maybe this is a good thing for them. Maybe they will come out of this stronger. I think we have as a result, certainly off the field. But we wish Cardiff Rugby all the best, and we don't want to see any team go to the wall, do we? Because we want 4 teams, and we echo that sentiment. And like I said, we know where you guys are feeling. I know the Cardiff supporters listen to us. We know exactly where you're feeling, because this happened to us, and it's not nice. It's pretty horrible knowing that you might not ever have a club to support, and it's tough. It really is. Okay, moving on then. Lots of signings news. Particularly re-signing. So Dragons announced the signing of Thomas Young. That's something that we've spoken about a lot. It's a 3-year deal. He's 32, but the 3rd year is significantly less money than the first 2. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think it's a good signing. We've spoken a lot about Thomas Young on this pod already. Any further thoughts on that before we move on? Or
well, it brings balance to the back row, and as much as I like Tane, I think he brings what we need more than what Tane has. So I'm happy with it.
Okay, fair enough.
Great. Yeah. So one thing on it, I think there was an article in December that Cardiff were going to struggle to hold on to superstar JT, and then English clubs swarming after him. We sign him, and then maybe it's, oh, what about his age? What about his age? Just because he's coming to us. Yes, good
Funny that,
signing.
isn't it? Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, very good signing though. Happy
Yeah.
days.
No, absolutely. Wales under-20 internationals, Evan Minto and Nick Thomas, they've signed new senior academy contracts with the club. So the pair have both made senior debuts for the men of Gwent this season, appearing in that Challenge Cup victory at Newcastle back in December, which feels like a very long time ago now. But I remember Nick Thomas's turnover. You watched that game, Gavin, didn't you? We talked about that they were hammering us, and fair play, Nick Thomas. He turned the ball over. He was one of the best turnovers and well-timed turnovers I have ever seen. Because if they had scored at that moment, Newcastle would have gone on to win it.
It was technically perfect. Everything about it was perfect.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so those are signed up, Minto and Nick Thomas. That's good news. And then Dragons announced new signings. Wales under-19s pair, Cody Purnell and James Talamai. I want to say it, if I got his name right, James Talamai, from Bath and Saracens, respectively. So we're doing, have you noticed, we're doing what Cardiff were doing last season. We're bringing young Welsh talent back over the bridge. I think this is a really good strategy. What do we think?
Oh, yeah. The lads they've got from Bath as well. Like 19 or 18 years of age, he is massive. He's absolutely massive. Fair play, like that boy is a lump, and you know, can get him in our set. He's going to bring some size.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's like I said, Cardiff used that strategy pretty well in fairness to him last season. I think that's the way to go.
Good to see young Welsh players see a future at the Dragons. And they see us as a place where they can develop. Maybe they see us as a place they can push on and get game time. But either way, it's great that we're attracting these players.
And I think there's a degree in that. I don't know if I remember Craig Morgan. He was a centre half. He played for Wrexham and MK Dons and Peterborough.
Yes.
And played for Wales. Well, I taught Craig when he was about 15, 16. And he was at Wrexham and Everton were trying to sign him. And I said, oh, why are you not going to Everton? And he said, because I'll get in the first team by the time I'm 17, and I'll get regular football. Yeah, and I think there's a degree of that in it. They think, well, we're going to be on the front of the first team very quickly.
No, absolutely. Dragons also announced that Wales under-19s captain Ryan Jones has joined the academy system on a full-time basis, having previously combined rugby with employment. I'm hearing a lot of good things about Ryan Jones. Yes. I've been told by a number of people at the Dragons, watch out for him. So
have you noticed
keep an eye on him
as well? So we had, I know we mentioned before about young leadership. We had Woodman under-20s captain, Ackerman under-20s captain, just signed Bedell under-20s captain, and Ryan Jones captained the under-19s, did he, last week?
Yeah. It's a theme year, isn't it? I don't know about you guys. It's sense of the theme developing.
You're thinking, we're building such a good core of young players who have obviously got leadership qualities. We do need the players at the other end, but it's it is. I said it before, but the future is starting to look quite good, but it might just take a little bit of time to get there. But yeah, promising signs, very good.
Yeah, absolutely, some green shoots. And then the Dragons announced that Wales under-20 internationals Harry Rees-Weldon from Ebugav, one of your boys, and Logan Franklin as the scrum half has been saying. By the way, can people please stop comparing Harry Rees-Weldon to George North? Can people stop doing it? Because I don't know what it is, and maybe some people say, oh, this happens everywhere, but we have an awful habit in Wales of comparing young players to legends, and it's really not helping. I don't think it's particularly helpful. Can we stop saying that Harry Rees-Weldon is the new George North? He's not. But he has a lot of potential, this kid. I'm a big fan of his. I would like to see more senior appearances for the Dragons next season.
Oh, 100%.
Stop comparing him to George North. It happened remember when Ben Carter come on the scene and then people said, oh, he's the next Stanley Wynne-Jones? It's just not helpful, because then people have it in their heads that he's going to be as good as or better. And then for whatever reason, when they don't reach that standard, they put the boot into him then. Remember him when he was compared to Llewyn Jones? That's the problem. It's like, we got to stop doing it.
But yeah, good signings though. I think I said to you, Jamie, I'd like to see players like Harry Rees-Weldon filling up the depth chart in the back three, and the money be concentrated more on the pack. I'd rather have a young flyer on the wing giving it his all and being hungry and having a bit more experience spent up front.
I agree, because I think if you got a young prop, it could be quite painful.
Yeah, when we've
And it's
experienced
going to
it.
be there's going to be growing pains. You know they're going to struggle if they're out on the wing. They're not as exposed as much if they're a young lock or tight head. So you are completely right. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like a bit more experience at 10 as well, I think, but
yeah,
or a bit more quality at 10, but
no,
yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. So at this point then, just to say, if you want a shout out on the pod, then just leave a 5-star review and we'll give you a mention. It has to be 5 stars. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe to the Rap YouTube channel. I think we're on 1.6k subscribers at the moment, so we'd love to get to 2k. And tell your Dragons mates about this as well, as it all helps to grow the pod. We've had some reviews come in, the pod that we do with Chris Kerwin. Richard got in touch. Richard Bowen said, enjoying the pod and the latest one with Chris Kerwin. Be good to have him on again next season and good to hear his positive spin as opposed to all the recent negativity. I mean, positive spin is good, but I do like some realism in it as well. I quite like a mixture of the two. But yeah, thank you for that, Richard. Dino got in touch. He said, JP at his best. Yeah, I agree, Dino. You're absolutely right. Couldn't agree more. Great podcast. Good to hear from Chris Kerwin. Always knows what he's talking about. He did go on to say about there's a lack of movement from marquee signing, players lacking fitness and basic handling skills. Yeah, we've talked about it on the pod. We get it. And then Matthew James Reese got in touch again, just simply saying how much he loves the pod. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you for those comments. It's much appreciated. Right then. It's time for a Gwent Rugby Roundup. Gavin, what's the latest?
So, nothing happened in the SRC this week whatsoever. No games were played at
Are you sure there was the Gwent derby involved in Newport and Ebbw? It didn't go well for Ebbw, Gav, did it? Let's be honest.
It did not. No. It did not. A 40 points to 14 win for Newport, gaining revenge for the earlier slamming up at Eugene Cross Park. I think Ebbw have lost their way a bit, since the Slam Dyfry game, bounced back against Bridgend, but Bridgend are poor, but have not done as well since then. Premiership Cup final, which was a week before, Cross Keys, representing Gwent, sadly lost 27-15. Oh no, that's a complete lie. That was this weekend. Pontypridd 43, Cross Keys 12 in the Premier Cup final. Cross Keys then hosted Pontypridd this weekend in the Prem and lost 27-15. And Bargoed, who I didn't realise were in our region until very recently, they lost 24-27 away to Ystrad Rhondda in the championship. And as Jason was talking to us, Annisd sadly lost 34-10 away to Bryn Mawr, who've also been struggling this season. Bedwas 44-0 winners away to Aberdare. And Talawine won 56-35, a high-scoring game. Their defence clearly not on the agenda for either team against St. Peter's. In the Division 1, Blaenavon lost 12 points to 24 at home to St. Geneth. Monmouth lost 31-35 at home to Dowlais. And Newport High School Old Boys 19, Abelairi Blaen y Gwent 43. Division 2, Cwmbran 43, Garndey 5-24. Pill Harriers 18, Caldecott 14. Risca 10, Abercorn 23. Usk 25, Blaenau 35. And then into Division 3, Abertwysog 30, Fleur-de-Lis 32. Nail-biting stuff there at Abertwysog. Killian 20, Nantiglow 32. And then another game where defence is clearly switched off. Oakdale 38, Machen 68. Division 4, Fordside 23, Llanilla 43. Gwenaved 78, Whitehead 14. That's not... Newport up to Gwenaved. That's a fair old stretch. That wouldn't have been a nice journey on the way back after getting shipping that many points.
Nope.
Pontypridd 5-24, Bedwellty 55. Into Division 5, Derry 19, Haverfordwest 19. Harwich High School All Boys 26, Abersychan 24. Hollybush 14, Mago 15. Tredegar Ironsides 24, Beaufort 10 in the Sarawi Valley derby there. So Division 6A, these are results from the last couple of weekends. But Trinant 45, Cwm Carn United 5, Brynifl 6, Trinant 24, and Old Tillerians 0, Nutradiga 47, which give Nutradiga the title. And I don't know if you've seen the videos on their social media of the coach arriving back at the clubhouse and his flares.
No, I'm pleased for him because we had Steph, didn't we, on the pod, and yeah, it's just nice to see him on the rise again. You know, they went through a tough time, didn't they? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And then
do well.
into the Dragons Athletic League, Gwenefyd Athletic 12, Anistey Rats 26, and Nelson Nomads 40, Newport High School Old Boys Expendables 5.
Brilliant. Is that everything, Gav?
That is everything from this weekend.
Excellent. Can I just take this opportunity to offer our sincere condolences to the family of Brian Jones? So Brian Jones was, of course, the president of Newport. Well, he served Newport RFC as a player, captain, coach, and a committee man, chairman, and most recently as their president. He was known as Mr. Newport. Very sad loss for the club, and they did pay tribute to him today before the Newport and the Ebervale game. So yeah, just our sincere condolences to the family of Brian Jones. Okay, so looking ahead to Saturday then, just before we wrap up, I think we all know this is the Dragons' last chance of one more win in the URC this season because they got to travel to South Africa and it ain't going to happen there. Let's be honest about it. So how hopeful are we that Dragons are going to give us long-suffering supporters one more win this season? And that just about says it all. The silence says it all. Brilliant. Yeah, so we're all hopeful then, lads, yeah?
It would be Dragonsy to get the win now because it has been a crap season. Like
People have said that to me.
We do have a performance in this. My worry is, are we able to put out a 15 that can put in that performance? Yeah. What's going to be the injury news? We don't know at the minute, do we? You know, we thought Ben Carter was going to be back after the Six Nations. So
I know, yeah, that was disappointing, wasn't it? Hopefully he'll be back this week. But again, we're recording this so early in the week, we just don't know, do we?
Yeah. So it's hard, isn't it? The thing is, though, we touched on like Judgement Day, and you mentioned about sales being low. There's just nothing on it. I know there's pride and it's a derby, so that's always important. But season's done. It should be almost a curtain raiser for the season, like a big grand opening. You know, people have missed rugby, well, hopefully missed rugby, and you know, hopefully your players are fit. You're going in with a bit of optimism. It's just a bit like it's a day out on the beers. Yeah,
tickets are going for 20 quid.
Yeah. I mean, some tickets were on sale for 10, wasn't they? And again, 2 games for 10 quid. It's great value. But I do understand the supporters that groan about it, though. I do understand why they don't like it. You know, oh, this would be better if we had our home game. Would we have preferred, let's be honest, would we have preferred to have Scarlets of Rodney Parade this weekend?
100%.
Yeah, I think a lot of Dragons fans would have preferred to have had this game at Rodney Parade. But I don't mind Judgment Day personally. I think it's a great opportunity to meet up with people. Are you going, Gareth?
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, it's a different sort of day, isn't it? To your usual. Yeah, you always get a few more people go in, and it's more like not family day, but it's a different sort of feel to it. It's not getting over to Rodney Parade and it's a bit grubby, and you want to make it hostile. It's sit in the stands and clap and see how it goes.
We'll all get a chance to meet up as well, which will be nice.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. And if anyone's listening to the pod, then feel free to say hello. I'm not as sociable as Gavin or Gav. I'm not a people person. But if you want to buy me a drink, that's absolutely fine. I'll gladly accept that, especially in Tiny Rebel. Right. So with this game with the Scarlets now, I do think this is a winnable game. I'm keen to see how the Scarlets pack goes, right? Because we all know about their non-Welsh qualified pack or their almost non-Welsh qualified pack. Don't think it's particularly helpful for Welsh rugby. I'll be honest. I don't like it very much. But nonetheless, they have got some bowlers in their pack, haven't they? Fifita, Lousy, etc. Josh McLeod is very, very good. Will turn over ball. But this pack sometimes does go missing in action, I've noticed. So there are some games where the pack looks really, really good. And that's what's won them the game. And then there's other games there. And I think back to Ulster away, Munster away, Ospreys away, where the pack have been decimated, really.
Yeah.
They've had a number done on them. So I think if we get parity up front with their pack, I think we got a chance. But let's not do anything daft. Let's cut the errors down. We got to sharpen up our attack. I think it's a good experience, mind, for guys like Hugh Anderson to be playing in a stadium. He can showcase his skills, and Ivan Owen, and for our youngsters. Well, I still think of an Ivan Owen as a youngster. He's not now. He's been around so long. He's
Is he
not
about
really.
24, 25 now?
Yeah. But
well,
Brody
three-quarters of the
Coughlin.
fans in that ground will be expecting to watch the Scarlets' backs run riot, won't they?
Yes.
And they'll be looking forward to seeing, these players who have been breaking into the Wales squad. But it'd be great, like you say, Hugh Anderson, go and show what you're about. Rio Dyer, show that you should actually be back in that Welsh squad for the summer. I think it's a really good chance. But I thought that last year, and we almost tried to play too much rugby last year, and we were absolutely awful.
Oh, I thought we were abysmal.
That was
I
one
went
of
to
the worst games
Judgement
I've ever
Day.
seen.
Yeah, it was at the CCS.
That was
It was
horrendous.
terrible performance.
Yeah.
Terrible. And Gavin, you was there as well, wasn't it? I remember that.
Yeah, that was, it was hard work getting there and then watching that. Jesus.
Yeah, we've got players who, are in a chance of going on tour in the summer. So there's no more motivation you need, let alone beating a local rival.
Yeah.
So
but like I said, guys like Brody Coughlin, Hugh Anderson, Rio Dyer, I think they can really, make a name for themselves there on the stage and maybe get them back in the Wales conversation for the tour to Japan. But for us, I feel okay about this game. There's no pressure whatsoever because if we win, great. Still doesn't salvage what's been a dreadful season. And if we lose, you're like, well, we expected that anyway. We can't change our league position. So the Scarlets, they have to win this game, really. So all the pressure is going to be on them. And they will be targeting 5 points. It reminds me of what happened back in 2019, though, doesn't it? There are shades of 2019 now. So, yeah. Sorry, Gavin, what was you going to say then?
So, can the other three regions still qualify for the top 8?
They can, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all still very much in contention for the top 8. I'll be interested to see, because the first game is Cardiff Ospreys. I'll be interested to see how Cardiff react now, obviously, after the news we talked about. I think that could galvanise them. Because the Ospreys have always been a team. They know how to beat Cardiff. They know how to get under the skin. Yeah. Connacht's the same. They just know how to do a number on Cardiff. But I wonder, with all this news going on, this will maybe backs to the wall. And they are good at that, Cardiff, mind to be fair. They are very good when their backs against the wall of putting in the performance. So I'll be interested to see how they get on. But for our game, let's just see what happens. There's a bit of a laugh in it, It would be nice to have a win, though, wouldn't it? Even though we're not that bad, just to say, yes, we won. Just to say we won a game. Oh, desperate stuff, isn't it? So what's our predictions then? Do we want to make our predictions?
Scarlets by 6.
Okay, I'm going to say Scarlets by 7. Gav?
I'm going to have to go Dragons by 2.
That's the spirit.
It's Judgment Day. We've got players up for it. We can put in a performance. The one thing I'd like, though, you mentioned Kerry Jones saying about he was annoyed about the arrogance. And, there's nothing coming out. Well, no, not yet. It's still a week to go. But why aren't we using things like that now? We don't seem to get our backs against the wall. We haven't got that identity as a club anymore. Jason said it himself, didn't he? We're not about that anymore. So it's just, we can all get behind that. We can all get behind having a bit of a dog in us. We're Gwent and Newport people. It's what we're built on.
No, you're right. I would like to think that maybe Philo does do some of that behind the scenes. I don't get that impression whatsoever, to be honest. But
even if he does do it behind the scenes, we need it as fans.
Yeah, absolutely. I still got reservations about this coaching team, though. I know all these signings are very positive, but I've still got reservations about the coaching team, and that's not going to change, I think.
Your coaches are important, aren't they?
Yeah.
I say that as I come back from the Under-11s Festival unbeaten this weekend, but it's...
No, it's true. I'm going to need a lot of convincing for next season as well that Philo is the right guy to lead us. And I'm just being honest when I say that. And I'm not the only one who thinks it either.
No,
He's got a lot of work to do to win over people, I think. Because so far, hasn't been happening, is it? Our performances are worse since we parted company with Dave Flanagan. That's the reality.
Ospreys fans are more positive about Philo than we are, I think.
He's a legend down there, though, so that's why. Yeah. Who could blame him? Okay, gents, that's a wrap. We will leave it there for this week. It's been a busy pod. I will see you both on Saturday.
Indeed.
Looking forward to it. Thanks again to our guest, Jason Tovey. He was awesome, wasn't he? Fair play. Good old Tovey. And our friends at Riverside Sports Bar for their continued support of the podcast. So we'll be back next week. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ta-ra.
That was The Dragon's Lair in association with the Riverside Sports Bar Newport, an American-style bar with a proper Welsh feel.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.